Alright, so if you can tell everybody who you are.
My name is Renee, and I'm a keynote speaker for an organization called VIC Fellowship, which is Vaccine Information Coalition. And my husband?
My name is Gary Tunsky. I'm the owner of Precision Healing Solutions. I'm a traditional naturopath.
Excellent. Alright, so let's go back to the beginning. She was your only daughter? Or
She was my first
your
child.
first child. So how long ago was that?
She was born in 1995, June 3rd, 1995. That's when she was born, and then I lost her on June 13th, 1999. So she's been gone since 1999.
And she was 4 years old.
She was 4. It was 10 days after her 4th birthday when she passed away. I saw from the very beginning, the first round of vaccines, issues like hypotonia. I had to teach her how to crawl, teach her how to walk. She had a severe lack of muscle tone.
When were her first vaccines?
Oh, she received the first one at 2 weeks, the hepatitis B. And then, of course, the round that they get at 2 months and 4 months. And so compounding toxicities is what we teach. The more poison, the more injury, basically. And then when I gave her the MMR vaccine at 15 months, they usually give it between 12 and 15 months. She got hers at 15 months. That's when the real regression, the 3 live viruses all at one time on top of the other compounding toxins.
Did she only have the MMR that day?
That's a good question. I think so. Maybe not. She might have had an additional. I have to look on the chart.
I mean, she's the same. She was born the same year as Bella, my daughter.
Oh, wow.
So they only gave the MMR there, but America's so much more aggressive with the schedule. I don't know what else.
You know, I don't know. I don't know. I don't remember. As a matter of fact, I think she did get another one too. I wrote a journal. He's using me to write a book right now, so I'm kind of going over her videos. I have 27 videotapes of her and her little 4 years of living. So I'm kind of dissecting them now, trying to get everything in order. I saw just recently in one of them that after the day that she got the MMR shot, which may have been combined with something else, she literally was the day before I had talked her into getting out, standing up on her own in her crib, and then the day that she got the MMR vaccine, that evening I took the video camera and said, "Look what she can do," and she couldn't do it. She completely just fell. So it was obvious. I just saw recently the damage the MMR actually caused. So it was definitely additional compounding, because the MMR vaccine, I'm sure you know, is 3 live viruses at one time. It's no mercury, no aluminum, no heavy metals supposedly. It's just the 3 live viruses. But even you and I would have a problem with that if we had exposed to 3 live viruses all at one time. And most of our parents had these diseases. They're not deadly. Sure, they're uncomfortable, but they're not deadly.
Why did you vaccinate? What was your thinking?
Her dad walked in, he worked with chiropractors, he walked into the house when I was pregnant with her and said, "Dr. John and Dr. Frank are saying we might want to look into the vaccinations." And my response to him was, I would never be a negligent mother and not vaccinate my daughter.
You said that.
I said that. My mother just reminded me of that recently. I'm like, I did not say that. But that's how ignorant I was. That's how misinformed I was. We're victims. We're all victims until we learn truth. I thought I was doing the right thing for her. I held her down. I learned that love that you don't know exists till you have that first child. So the love was...
Can you describe her before she was injured?
She was breathtaking. Breathtaking, always smiling, big blue eyes. Very happy, all the time happy. I mean, that's why I even had to take her to 3 different neurologists, because we didn't allow her to slip into the world of autism. I sang to her 95% of the time. This is when I'm watching these videos, I'm listening to my horrible voice on the videos. I'm always singing to her because it brought her into my world. She loved when I would sing to her. My son Corey was 20 months younger with no vaccines. He would force her to play Ring Around the Rosie. So we didn't allow her to become autistic and get into that world of autism. And I started taking her...
At what point did you realize it was the vaccine?
When I started taking her to all the specialists, the gastroenterologist, the endocrinologist, everybody, and nobody could give me answers. Nobody could, her blood work came back normal. None of the doctors that tested her. The last thing they wanted to do, one of the top neurologists in South Florida, wanted to do a bone marrow thing, an invasive type of testing, and I'm like, no, we're not doing that. And then I just started researching on my own, and I started praying, of course, mostly, and truth unraveled. It was unbelievable how many parents had the exact same story I had. The same story of how it all happened. Now, Casey, I stopped her vaccines, I think about 18 months. I don't know exactly. It was before her 2-year birthday, and She was labeled autistic, and then 2 years after she had no vaccines at all is when she developed the mononucleosis, the Epstein-Barr virus, which one of our researchers taught me came from the animal viruses in the vaccines, something I didn't know.
So slow down, because Billy had Epstein-Barr. It's really interesting. This.
Oh, wow.
So to explain to everybody what Epstein-Barr, we got Epstein-Barr.
Mononucleosis. Mononucleosis.
Which
They
is-
say it's the kissing disease when we were kids. You remember
They
you
call it
can't
glandular
drink.
fever as well.
Oh yeah, no, it was good and bad days. Like she would have good days where I put her in school because I had gotten her in an autistic school called Baldwin Oral School after begging 3 different neurologists to give her the label of autism because nobody wanted to give it to her because she gave eye contact. She didn't have the typical symptoms of autism. If she were here right now, you'd have to be around her about an hour, and then you would have walked over to me and asked why is she not talking. She was very mildly injured. Very mildly, even though, of course, the monkey viruses Dr. John Martin tested showed severely infected with this monkey virus. But anyway, so she develops the mono the last 5, 6, 7 weeks of her life, and then that compromised her immune system, having good days and bad days. I keep her out of school one day, and then the next day she'd be okay, and I put her in school, so good and bad days. By no means a life-threatening thing. I mean, it's just mono, you know, something we get as kids. But then that led into a secondary infection, bacterial meningitis, that duplicates every 20 minutes. So I called 911 when something wasn't right the next morning. I had slept with her in the middle of the floor in our living room on the bed from the couch just because she was restless that night. So I wanted to sleep with her. And when I woke up when it started getting dawn, she was doing this stiffening of her body. So I called 911. Something wasn't right. And they had diagnosed her, of course, with the mono. So anyway, I called 911. The emergency, the ambulance even said, I don't know why we're bringing, when he called the hospital, they asked, what are you bringing her in for? And the EMS guy in the ambulance said, I don't know why we're bringing her in. The mother's making us bring her in. Because I knew something was wrong with her. So we get to the emergency room. Apparently a lot of children at the time were coming in with the intussusception the rotavirus vaccine was causing because they kept thinking that it was her stomach and she couldn't talk, so she couldn't tell them it's not my stomach, it's my head. So apparently a lot of kids were coming in and having that issue, so they were taking her for sonograms and palpitating her stomach. And now I know that she was pretty much unconscious. I thought she was just sleeping because she was very restless that night before. So I thought she was just resting in the emergency room as we were waiting for somebody to come take care of her. I mean, it was a nightmare. She sat in the emergency room for probably 6 or 7 hours, and bacterial meningitis duplicates every 20 minutes. So by the time they finally realized, they even admitted her, and in the records even says, as per mother's request, we admitted her to the hospital. And they put her on the regular pediatric floor. And we're in her room, and a nurse walks by the room with a chart. She's not even coming to see us, and as she's walking by the room, she looks in our room, and she said, that little girl just had a seizure. I'm like, if that's a seizure, that's what I called 911 for. It was what's called a petite masse seizure. All she was doing is stiffening. You know, it wasn't a seizure where an obvious thing. Anyway, so that's when the ICU director came down to the pediatric floor that she was in, and admitted her to ICU. And they intubated her. They ended up making a mistake with the tube. They gave her the wrong side tube, I was told. That's when they wouldn't let me go with her anymore because now it was a trauma situation or whatever. And believe me, if I knew what I knew now, I would have been right there the whole time. But anyway, and then the next thing I know, she's on life support, and she came and told me, the ICU director, that they gave her too much phenobarbital. For seizures, they give phenobarbital, and apparently they overdosed her with that. And she told me, she said she got too much for her size. If her pupils are not if the pupils reduce size or whatever, she said to me, there's a small chance when the phenobarbital wears off that she'll be okay. Like, she kind of gave me a little bit of hope, but I could tell that she was definitely concerned about her not surviving. And that was that. I mean, she was an angel. God loaned it to me for 4 years and 10 days. She passed away. I can't tell you how spiritually all that happened, because it was almost like I wasn't there physically, if that makes any sense. It was kind of like Father was letting me see it all from his perspective the whole entire time, for his glory, if that makes any sense, because her life has saved so many others. Even though I begged him, please make her breathe, So, whatever. I mean, as we don't get to make our choices in life. Sometimes it chooses you. I was a happy personal trainer at the time, and now I travel the world in honor of her. I've been doing it, for a very long time now, just exposing all the facts that we all have the right to know. We have the right to know all the stuff that we're having to learn the hard way.
So to the person watching this who genuinely doesn't understand, say, was the old you when it came to vaccines, help them understand why you think the vaccines killed your daughter rather than the overdose or the way she was treated in hospital.
Well, because I've learned a lot now, especially now that I've remarried my husband. He explains that it's compounding. I've learned, I've researched, and mercury doesn't belong in our body. Mercury with aluminum, with antifreeze, with MSG, with the monkey viruses, the animals they use to make the vaccinations, the kidneys of monkeys for the polio, the aborted fetal tissue they use for the MMR vaccine, the jugular of a horse they use to make the DPT vaccine. So when you learn all these heavy metals and all these neurotoxins are in the vaccinations, and then you're bypassing our Creator's defenses, He gives us fever, vomiting, diarrhea if it comes through the nose or the mouth, and we allow them to bypass God's defenses straight to the bloodstream, put it on red alert, and poison right to the bloodstream. It can't vomit or have diarrhea. So it's compound. Just praying and researching is what led me to led me to know that the vaccines injured her, and that's why I stopped them. I didn't vaccinate my son Corey. He was 20 months younger than her, so I had for 2 years, because Corey was 2 in case he passed away. So I saw a fully man-made vaccinated immune system compared to a fully God-made unvaccinated immune system. No comparison.
So what you're saying is your unvaccinated children are extremely healthy.
Oh my gosh, unbelievably healthy. He even, when they knew what she had, when they knew that it was too late for her, they said, bring your son to the hospital. My brother Shane was watching him because he was, was at the emergency room. And Shane brought Corey to the hospital. I'll never forget it. The nurses asked, is he up to date on vaccines? And I just said, yes, he has all the vaccines he needs. 2 nurses take his blood and his urine and came back out and said, not only does he not have mononucleosis, he also doesn't have bacterial meningitis. And then they told me they've never seen purer blood. Pure blood. The life of the flesh is in the blood. They could physically see my son's pure blood, even though they're thinking he's vaccinated. So nobody's going to tell me vaccines strengthen the immune system. I saw him run a 10-minute fever and kill the same thing she took a week to kill the year before. So there's no comparison in the immune system.
Plus also, from the pathology reports, Dr. John Martin actually sent a pathology showing stealth virus from monkey virus. And where would a monkey virus come from if they didn't use them in vaccination culturing? So they're using rhesus monkeys, greens, macaws, and they actually attenuate or run serial passage many times. Human virus with monkey. Human virus and bacteria with diphtheria culturing with horse. So when you combine horse bacteria, because they carry pathogens, monkeys, they're not healthy when they use them. So you're attenuating or you're running serial passages and recombinants recombine human with animal. So you're getting half-breeds, half DNA of animal, monkey, and half DNA of human. When you bypass the nose and the mouth and you shoot right to the blood, you just bypass the blue alert to the immune system, the yellow alert, the orange alert, and go right to red alert. So when you shoot red alert to the blood, you get antibody titers. That has nothing to do with immunity, and that's their whole premise in medical school. Look for the antibody titer increase. This has nothing to do with the immune system. It just means you're exposed to something foreign to the bloodstream. That's all that shows. So the whole premise of medical allopathic is wrong. They don't explain the humoral phase versus cytotoxic T cell phase of the immunity. They just think that any foreign antigen that comes in, if you shoot it small, attenuated small amounts to the blood, you can somehow build an immunity. That's wrong science. It's false science. So now you're getting Epstein-Barr, you're getting cytomeglia, you're getting mono as a byproduct of those half human, half animal viruses. They're called retrovirus. And these retroviruses have never been on this planet before. Now, we're not dealing with regular measles or mumps or chickenpox when they analyze it in the laboratories. When they make them in the labs, they're not wild from nature. They're foreign. So now the immune system has to adjust to a new breed species that they made in the laboratories when they shoot it in your blood. They don't tell you that.
And they're trying to mandate it. What do you think about that?
Well, then they're trying to encourage something in the population.
Because a lot of people are waking up. A lot of people are waking up. I mean, autism alone is 1 in 45, the CDC is admitting. So many parents are realizing their child's injured. They're choosing not to vaccinate their subsequent children. So they're choosing not to vaccinate, and they're losing money. It's all about making money to them, the root of all evil. That's it. And really it's the families, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the ones that are behind the drug companies we've learned and exposed. So the bigger picture is that, that control of, big business, Sickness Incorporated.
It's an automatic billionaire
Right.
income for the drug companies if they mandate one vaccine. An automatic billion in their pocket, and they know that. So why not implement 150 through the pipeline? They have no immunity. You can't sue them anymore. So why not create 150? There's no liability to it. You can't even sue them for an injury. If your child dies after a vaccination, they're going to say, "Oh, it's coincidental. It wasn't the vaccines." So they'll lie. They'll manipulate. They'll do anything that they have to do to protect themselves from lawsuits.
You're saying they? Who are you calling they?
The big pharma, all the big
But
companies.
tell you what, when you were talking about that, I thought you were talking about the doctors, because I hear
Oh,
from
no,
the
no.
people, I hear from the people,
Yeah.
and everything just came out of your mouth. It's
Yeah.
coming from the doctors.
Yeah, that's right.
They're
Now,
puppets.
we used to think, the doctors are good-hearted and they're
No,
nurses.
they're not.
And you know what we're learning? They don't care.
There's
They
no
want
way
their
you can
money.
be a doctor more than
Yeah.
10 years and see the epidemic
Yeah.
of autism go from 1 in 10,000 to 1 in 45 and not possibly think the vaccines could
Yeah,
play a
they're-
role. I mean,
they're
it's just
turning their head
insane.
to
They're
injuries
keeping
automatically.
they're keeping their heads turned, and you're absolutely right. They're 100% to blame, but their hands are tied because they're trained by the drug companies. Their textbooks are written by the drug companies. Their funding comes from the drug companies.
Their hands are not tied because they can walk away.
They
and do
could,
better
they
with their
could, but I
life.
mean, if they want to
They could.
continue what they've pursued, if they want
They're
to
just
continue.
afraid of being treated like Andrew Wakefield.
Absolutely,
and
That's
losing
right.
their
absolutely,
Absolutely.
losing everything. Exactly, that means more to them. And they're taught evolution in medical school, not even creation. So it's like, of course, that's all their motive is, just to make money and to be the It's crazy. It's crazy that our babies are suffering for our misinformation and using the vulnerable side of our love that Father gives us for our child to allow us to hold them down and be injected with poison, literally. Poison.
So what do you think the answer is?
Going to more natural means, there's an alternative to the alternative of drug and cut and burn and poison symptoms. So the answer to fixing not just vaccine injuries, but also all diseases, is you detoxify the body. Get rid of that poison that's been shoot in you. Get rid of the toxins and the heavy metals and the chemicals that you've been eating in your food and drinking in your water and breathing in the air. That's the carcinogens and the poisons have to come out. So if you don't know how to detoxify, and no MD does, now think about this. These are hepatologists that are liver disease experts, and they don't know how to clean a liver. You got a nephrologist that's a kidney disease expert. They don't know how to clean a kidney through homeopathics or through herbs or botanicals. But there's no education in the natural realm because they can't patent it. So the answer would be outside of medicine. It wouldn't be in. There is no answers to medical science.
And what he teaches after I do my message, mine's the appetizers is the meal, is that the biggest premise of Western medicine, of penicillin and vaccinations, is that germs cause disease. That's Louis Pasteur's work. Explain, baby.
And Antoine Béchamp came out side by side with Pasteur way back in the 1918, 1919, before Fleming came with antibiotics. So Antoine Béchamp says, "Hey, Pasteur, come here." So Louis Pasteur sits down next to him, and he takes a virulent pathogen and he puts it right inside a petri dish. Nutritional medium was perfect, pH was perfect, oxygen was perfect, nutritional medium was perfect in the dish. He closed the lid and waited for about 3 hours, and then he came back. He zoomed in on the microscope. He says, "Come here, Pasteur, watch this." And Pasteur looked and seen a non-virulent pathogen, so it's just laying there dormant in the dish. It didn't do anything. So then he opened up the lid, let oxygen get in and oxidize the dish, and the toxins got in and metabolic waste, and the pH dropped, the oxygen dissipated, the nutritional elements started dissipating, and it started turning real morbid. He says, "Come here, Pastor, I'm going to show you something." He zoomed in on the same stain, same petri dish, and it showed a pleomorphic change right in the dish. He's seen the bacteria flip to virus, virus to spore, spore to mold, and it went to 16 different cycles in the dish to show that the germ flips forms of the virus depending on the environment that it's in. So you're the petri dish as a human. So if your body's toxic and your pH is acidic and you have blood flow problems, stagnation like a stagnant swamp, and you got immune system suppression, and you got sugar laying around in food sources, well, guess what's going to come in as scavengers? The germs. So viruses and bacteria are not the cause of the illness, they're because of the sick tissue. So they're because of the sick illness of the cell level that they come in and migrate, and they're opportunistic. So they're scavengers. They're there because of, not the cause of. So you take that B away, it changes the whole story.
And they don't tell you that Pasteur admitted to Antoine that he was right.
Yeah, on his
That it's the
deathbed.
inner condition of you upon exposure to the disease. It's not that germs cause diseases. It's the inner condition of you upon exposure.
Yeah, he even
And
said the germs are nothing and the cellular terrain is everything.
Yep.
He admitted that
Yep.
on his deathbed, but they didn't air it. No media,
Yep.
no news to the citizens.
Crazy.
Oh, we're getting called, but now listen, everybody, look at this beautiful girl. She's going to be taped on the bus now.
Thank you.
She really is beautiful. She's going to travel with all the babies.
Oh,
Thank you.
Like I said, her mausoleum says God's dearest angel on it. And she's saved lots of lives.
Oh, guys, you haven't met Ryan yet. Let's go. We have a new baby on there. Ryan, 15 months.
Was it SIDS? Did they say?
There's no such thing as SIDS.
I know.
Yeah,
Did they
vaccine
say?
death.
Did they
Yeah.
say it was SIDS?
It's
VIDS,
VIDS,
exactly. That's what we
vaccine-induced
call it.
disease
That's what
syndrome.
we
I
call
need
it.
a pen. How do I spell her name?
CASI. Casey Renee.
Casey.
CASI. And then her Renee.
Oh.
ENEE. With the accent over that next to the last E. I'm A for Renee. I'm A for Renee. She's Casey Renee. And her sister, who I had since her passing, is named Faith Renee. With no vaccines in the public school system. Unbelievable.
All right, guys,
Yep.
she's not good.
Unbelievable. Faith Renee.